Thank you ever so much. And your announcement always kind of, elevates the expectations. So it's. I hope that we will be up to the task. So as Eva has mentioned, my colleagues Dr. Zur and myself will be talking a little bit more about the corporate side of social impact investment and our own experiences, starting from a more like broader perspective. Sofia will be telling us more about the European perspective and the work that EVPA does, and some of the lessons learned working with corporates there. And I will be speaking from my very own personal experience about the work that Smart Collective does with companies that we have strategic partnership with more than 30 companies, and how also did we go from the journey from engaging them in traditional philanthropy to start to engage them more into the social impact investment here. So as time is limited, I would like to kind of jumpstart, and maybe Sophie, as I announced, we said that we will start from a broader perspective and then talk more about, let's say, a local or regional one. So as Eva mentioned, EVPA does a lot of work with the corporate sector. You also act as a kind of a resource center where you do not only engage corporates in some practical projects, but you also do a lot of analysis, research, and work with them. So, if you could highlight briefly for us, what are some of the trends, and what do you see as somebody working with corporates across Europe are some of the key elements when we want to engage them in these social impact investments here.
Thank you very much, Neven. Good morning to all. Warm welcome to this session. So indeed, as Eva and Neven mentioned, we're having 70 plus multinationals on board with us at EVPA, who is the European network of investors for impact. And indeed, over the past 10 years, we saw a very substantial evolution of corporate philanthropy and corporate social investment at large. And I'd like to stress three trends we have been seeing. And I would say nowadays, in 10 days, it's amazing how we saw that, most of those multinational 10 days ago, they were very much into mandatory reporting on their sustainability goals and initiatives, while now they really want to play a much more engaged role in social and environmental topics. So it's much less a question of, shall I really take my societal responsibility, yes or no, more or less, but it's very much, they don't question that. They know they need to do it. And now it's a question of, how shall I do it? So it's very much about the how rather than, shall I do it, yes or no? And even the most skeptical multinational in Western Europe, I would say that at C-level governance level of this multinational, even the most skeptical, they're not being enough engaged in the societal field generally is considered as a risk that the organization is taking. And therefore, they're heading this journey of really corporate social investment. And when I say social, it's both social and environmental. So I'd like to stress three trends. The first one is that, and it's a bit a gradual evolution over time in the past 10 years. First is that those corporates, they went from classic philanthropy practice towards more impact philanthropy, strategic philanthropy. We really saw a professionalization of those practice developed by the teams, from a simple donation to, practice covering not only the financial support, but as importantly, the non-financial support, the partnership that a foundation, a corporate foundation would develop with the NGO or the entrepreneur. And as importantly, also the impact measurement and management, which is a journey as such. It is not easy, but they try to do a bit more than reporting, really, and this from the start. The second, this is on the impact side, talking about shared value, creating shared value between business and civil society. What we see on the other end of the spectrum, on the business side, is that the company went from a classic sustainability, as I said, meeting just regular requirements, ticking the box for the auditors, to a more responsive CSR, focusing more gradually on value creation, so gradually towards strategic CSR, and then true corporate social investments, making a big difference. So from an approach which is very much mitigating risk, protect license to operate the business, they go towards a more generation of positive impact and proactively setting up an impact strategy, gradually embedded in the core business, to really focus on some SDGs which resonate with their core business and values. So that's the second element. The third element is that it is converging. This a new impact approach through strategic philanthropy, impact philanthropy, and this true corporate societal investments approach, they are converging, and actually we see a much stronger, more efficient collaboration between the two. So we would see a corporate foundation collaborating very closely with the corporate, and they leverage actually the assets of the company. And it's actually a win-win relationship. And I will give you an example in a minute. It's a very much win-win relationship. The corporate foundation, they access the corporate assets, the network, the expertise, the financial resources. They also access the employees' engagement, which is very important. They are ambassadors for good cause, and they can even create systemic change at industry level. I'll give you an example in a minute. On the other side, for the corporates, where's the win-win? Well, the corporate allows the scaling of the corporate foundation, bringing social innovation. And actually, the corporate can have its brand strengthened. It can be a good way to attract and retain talent to engage the employees in the societal initiative of the corporate. And of course, it can improve license to operate because you can access new markets. I will give you the example of Danone in a minute. You can increase your supply chain efficiency to get it more sustainable, and again market knowledge in some geography. Because you access an ecosystem that is not the classic business ecosystem. So the third trend I'd like to really focus on is, and it's a big driver we've been seeing over the past years, is those corporate foundations that and EVPA developed a number of publications on that. It's a very fundamental initial strategic question for a corporate foundation is, where do I put the needle in terms of strategic alignment with the core business and the core values of my company? And we identified four, you will see that I put it in the chat. We identified 4 types of strategic alignment, from non-alignment, zero alignment, completely at arm's length, independent from the company, to industry alignment, to business alignment. And I'd like to give you the example of Danone ecosystem. Danone's ecosystem is an impact fund. And actually, they wanted to leverage this fund. They established this fund to make this a supply chain more sustainable. So they would support social entrepreneurs who can develop innovative solutions to make the supply chain more innovative, more sustainable, more inclusive. And typically, this example of Margarida, social entrepreneurs in Mexico, and actually, they put in place a whole local suppliers platform supplying milk in Mexico, and they really wanted to shift from imported milk to really locally produced milk by local producers and farmers, and you see the whole social value chain benefits there. And they also, typically they engage the employees from headquarters, but also in the region, to be able to bring expertise necessary to deploy the fund, to really make the fund very operational and to support the social entrepreneurs. So this is really what we see. And I would end up saying that more and more those multinational, they tend to, at the very high level, to find their purpose, to find the purpose of the business. And the one who does not have a purpose yet, which is, this overall overarching impact vision of the impact vision that the multinational want to have. And it's key because then the corporate foundation and other impact initiatives within the corporate organization will align on this common impact vision of the company, and it gives a lot of consistency. It gives it's a recipe for more efficiency, also to generate positive impact. That's about the sketching the main trends in Western Europe at the moment. Thank you, Neven.
Thank you, Sophie. And maybe, I forgot to mention, but it goes as a given that you can ask any questions in the chat, and we will try to respond to them. If not, at least, during the day, we'll try to provide you with an answer. And maybe, what you were saying, Sophie, has also given me a kind of a good introduction to, what I would like to speak is, how what you're describing, which is happening on the European level, how does it differ from what is happening maybe on the national or local level, and how is that of relevance to our guests that are coming from Eastern Europe? Speaking about, it's always easiest for me to speak about personal experience and some lessons learned through there. So we started working with corporates more than 15 years ago. Beginning of Smart Collective, what we wanted to do is work more with the corporate sector. Back then we didn't even know about this social enterprise type of business. So we wanted to, our key mission was to more engage the private sector into supporting some positive social change, and corporate social responsibility was actually one of those things. And we were also closely following what was happening in Western Europe, what was happening in the US, how this trend was more and more embedded into the corporate operations and their strategies, and they were forming the sustainability teams and things like this. So what we managed to do back in 2008 is to engage a group of leading companies at that time, of like pioneers, into something that we called Responsible Business Forum Serbia. Which is today a group of, it's a classic business network that consists of more than 30 companies that is committed to various sustainability and corporate social responsibility related issues. And I think for us, this has been one of the key factors of success in terms of how we were able to engage companies, because by working with them, we learned a lot about, their strategies, their habits, but also, their needs and, some of the things that you need to pay attention to when working with the private sector. We work mostly with multinationals that are active in Serbia and in the Balkan region, but we also have some of the domestic companies which are owned by, let's say, some successful or wealthy domestic entrepreneurs or business people. And I think the key thing, and probably this is something also relevant to the rest of the Eastern Europe, is that the majority of the work, at least, this is how it started, was around what you would call traditional philanthropy. So the companies are mostly, and were mostly interested into being engaged into some, let's say, a project that would look nice and that would support some vulnerable group, but a vulnerable group that is not too controversial, or something that is still I'm not being kind of a little bit blunt out here, but that has still a good photo opportunity potential and things like this. So when we did the analysis, and we saw that a lot of companies was supporting, let's say, projects related to children, whether it be children without parental care, or whether it is some other educational projects. When it comes to environment, they were supporting this, some kind of, as we say, like PR environmental projects. So not something that is material to their business, but more about cleaning parks or planting trees and doing things like this. So I think one of the key elements was also on how to educate them, how to build their capacities, how to work with them, and how to basically find the link with what you were saying, Sophie, and to say, well, this is what is happening in the rest of Europe. This is what your competitors are doing. This is what your headquarters are doing. So let's try to do more substantial things that are more linked to your core business, things that are more linked to your business strategies, and to try to implement these things also locally. And I think one of the things that helps us a lot was also introducing employee engagement as a concept. I think this is, and this would be my tip to everybody listening, how to approach corporates and how to get support from them. One of the good entry level points would be to organize some kind of support program where you would, not ask for financial support at first, but where you would, create strategic partnership with the company, where you would rely on their expertise. So to have pro bono support from the employees to help you, I don't know, to train your constituents or to organize some capacity building program. Even to do, we even organized employee engagement events that were very physical in their nature, like cleaning up some things or refurbishing some things. But that has helped us a lot in gaining their trust, in engaging the employees, engaging the wider group from a company, so that they can actually see and understand what are the constituents that we want to support. So if you take them to a social enterprise, and even if they do something, as I said, physical there, so help them do some physical works, or even help them, we had one social enterprise that produces strawberries and various kind of fruits, and every year we have a lot of employees from various companies going there, helping them to create some kind of jams and some other types of products that they can later sell. And this creates this kind of bond, and it creates this personal experience where people from company can actually then understand what your work is about, why is it important, who does it support. And then when you ask them for further support, I think I think it's much easier, and then they understand the added value you actually you can actually provide. That would be one kind of lesson and one tip. The other one would be when we started working with social enterprises. I think the term is not very well known, and different people have different understanding of what it actually is. So, when you say social enterprise to 10 different people, you might have 10 different concepts in their minds. Somebody would think that it's an NGO that kind of, that has some kind of income generating activity. Someone else would think that it's basically a company with a strong CSR, or someone else would think that it's an enterprise that solves a social and environmental issue. And I think, the problem that we had was, firstly, how to engage businesses to support social business, because, majority of them works in the area of philanthropy. Well, the majority of our primary stakeholders, which are working, around CSR related issues and in public relations or communication departments of companies. So, for them, it's more about, how they can reach, how they can have bigger impact. And then you would always have to kind of fight in explaining, well, why you should support a social enterprise that would have a stronger impact in the long run and that would be more sustainable, while you can today support an NGO that, works with, I don't know, some very vulnerable, with homeless people, or, a soup kitchen that would feed today some people. So in a way, we also thought it's a bad thing to compete, with those causes, which are also very worthy and very needed in the society. So what we then did is also to try to engage companies to support social enterprises, but not directly financially, but also through engaging them into their supply chain. And we saw that this is also a very good point, because sometimes for social business is much more important to have a stable market, to have a big company buying products from them, than to, get some money, as a one-time donation to, I don't know, buy new equipment or do something. Because, access to market is one of the key points and key elements and key gaps that social enterprises have, at least in our region, and I think it's the same in other countries. So what we would do, we would create specific programs and projects where actually we would pitch social enterprise products and services to businesses where they can actually match. That was one thing, and the other thing, we had some specialized support programs or specialist partnership programs with specific industries, like the retail industry, like the big retail chains like Deleuze or Lidl or other guys, where we would actually say, listen, these guys really need your support. They cannot enter your retail chain under the same conditions as the rest of the product that you have there. You need to help them further. So we developed products where they would helping them called the Retail Academy, where they were both helping them in capacity building and raising their capacity so that they can actually access the retail chain, or that they can understand that retail is not best way for them. Because a lot of the time social enterprises will come to us and say, just give us a contract with Lidl or Deleuze and everything else will be solved. And then they understand that it's, in terms of liquidity, in terms of other things, it's maybe not the best strategy. But, what I wanted to say is that we created this Retail Academy where we supported social enterprises by pro bono work from the retail industry managers to actually get into the retail chains under some more, I would say, favorable terms than they would give to other classic businesses. So I would just briefly stop here, and Sophie, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating, Neven. And as a co-founder and CEO of Smart Collective and Responsible Business Forum, you supported so many corporates in the region. And I'm wondering, concretely, operationally, how do they engage? I mean, would the majority of the company in the region would have a proper foundation? And when a corporate want to support a social entrepreneur, how do they have an impact fund, or is that the corporate affairs who decide to do that? Just to give us a little bit of your experience.
Yes, I think some of the companies would have corporate foundations, but not majority. So let me say it like this: if you work with corporates on the European level. So in most cases, if there is a foundation on the European level, most probably you would not have like a local foundation. Sometimes it exists, but in most of the cases not. So I would say some. That's one aspect. The other very important aspect, well, at least in the Balkan countries, I'm not sure how is it in let's say some other East European countries, but there are no tax incentives. So you are at the end of the day not incentivized to open a corporate foundation because it's just more cost for you. So it's it's the same of whether you channel your money through the foundation or you do it through corporate affairs and you just do it as a sponsorship or donation or any other type of related cost money. So basically a majority of them would work with us from our main counterparts would be people sitting in corporate communications, public affairs. In some cases, well, not in some cases, what we saw that at some points we need to engage CEOs, and this is what we see as a very important thing because they then are able to work across sectors. So, for example, if you want to have this retail academy where you have employees from this sector and that sector, and also have some money behind it, then you have to have support from the top because the communication sector cannot actually go to other sectors and engage them into a project or something. So yes, not so many corporate foundations. We see more corporate foundations from domestic companies. So and we see that domestic entrepreneurs, I think, as their legacy, want to leave some kind of a foundation behind them, or to have a foundation with also that supports the causes that are close to their heart. And when it comes to how do they engage, to last point of your question, none of them has a social impact fund. Some of the companies have some kind of services, as I said, that would be more tailored to the needs of the social businesses, like you would have Erste Bank, which is a bank working in Central Eastern Europe, headquartered in Vienna, that would have their social banking division. But this is more about, providing, let's say, this is more about access to finance than about impact investing. So it's more about providing more tailored classic financial instruments to let's say social businesses and some other types of businesses, but none of the companies is actually interested enough in social impact investing to set up their own investment social impact fund.
Yeah, and Neven, with the crisis, what do you see? Do you see the companies in the region engaging differently? Is this crisis a catalyst to generate some different strategic thinking and initiate different setups? Taking the opportunity to set up a proper foundation, or what is the impact on their practice with the crisis? Because I'm sure they want to do more. They want to support more efficiently, probably. So what do you see?
Well, that's a very good question, Sophie. Thank you very much because I would probably forgot to mention that I think it's very important for our discussion today. And I think the first response, of course, was first to freeze and to say hold and see what's going on. I think the second response was to support, let's say, the primary respondents or the primary care initiatives, like so to channel a lot of money and a lot of support into hospitals, into care, into various medical related, I would say, causes, because of course health was, and physical health was one of the, not one of, but was the key concern. But what we see now is like two trends on two sides. On one hand, you would see also a trend on the sides of the general public, that now people are becoming more cautious, and more aware about how fragile our system is. On one hand, on the other hand, how the let's say the system is is inefficient, because you would have a crisis, and then you're not able to import things from far away, and then a lot of the supply chains have stopped. So I think on one hand there has been a lot of interest in local business, in sustainable business, in social business, maybe not as stated as such, but what we see working with our entrepreneurs is that basically, especially those working with food, in the food sector, that actually they were selling more at the beginning of the crisis than they would sell regularly in that same period of year, because people of course wanted to buy food because that's also comforting when you're facing with the crisis. But on the other hand, because they wanted something local, something sustainable, they also wanted to contribute by their purchasing decisions. That's one thing. On the other hand, getting back to the topic of the business sector and of corporates, what we saw that there now, all of them are developing some kind of strategy, because as I said, the first response was like to the primary causes. Let's support hospitals, let's buy equipment, let's buy masks, let's donate, various, things for washing your hands or whatever. But now they're all developing some kind of second tier strategies, which are all related to economic development, which are all related to how do we actually support the consequences of the economic downfall of this crisis. And I think all of these are somehow, engaging support to mainly to the micro and small enterprises in the country, which have been most heavily hit by this crisis. So what we saw is that we're negotiating with some of the companies in, sometimes the company, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, Coca-Cola wants to support several social businesses by giving them some money. That's one thing, but also by giving them their own platform for promotion. So using the marketing power of Coca-Cola to promote some micro and small social businesses, and also in helping them establish some kind of an online shop where they can actually sell their products. We are working also, with one of the banks that also wants to support some social businesses by actually helping them to deal better with online payment, with online selling, all of these things. So I think that this crisis, to kind of end the response to your question, has also engaged and has also enacted companies to understand that they need to support social businesses and micro businesses, because they're good for the communities they're in their work, but they're also good for their own business at the end of the day.
Exactly. So I see time running, and maybe I should go for a couple of tips on my end. If you are a corporate manager, being on business or the impact side, the philanthropy side, I would say that I would start with really, trying to embed my initiative as much as possible with the core, aligning with the core values, with the core business of my company, and trying to, and if it's not done yet, trying to go diplomatically to my management and say, what is the impact vision globally of the company? What are the SDGs we want to focus on? What is the societal impact that my corporate my company wants to focus on, and then align on this vision and make sure that the initiative fits well with this vision. And it's a starting path, because it's very important, because as Neven said, you know, it's very important, and it's just changing. It's a game changer to have the executive of the company supporting your initiative, your impact initiative, because it will change, it will support you giving maybe not financial resources, hopefully financial resources, but also non-financial resources, leveraging the asset of the company. So it can be as if you are developing an impact initiative within your company, it can be a completely game changer for you, because you will talk, you know, you will go to your top management, and and then then it will definitely be a good booster for potential support you have internal the company. The second tip is really to find the sweet spot in terms of win-win between the impact initiative you develop and the business. And again, you know, having in mind that when you ask support to the top management to have more resources, if you find the right words, and if you find you understand the interest of your management to support your impact initiative for whatever reason, on the supply chain, on the consumer brand equity, on employees engagement, involvement, you really need to find what is important for your management. Why would he support? What is your management interest to support your impact initiative with his business lens agenda? You see, and if you speak a bit of this language, it builds a bridge, and you could access more. You could more easily get a support from your management. And then third element, definitely in the impact space, I think never experienced that many times. You need to be bold by nature, because it's not business, it's impact. So yeah, don't be afraid to be bold, to push the boundaries of the company. When we talk about social innovation, we're talking about risk, but it's definitely worth to take risk to really generate this impact that the civil society expects from the private sector, because they are definitely a key player. Voilà.
Sophie, I'm afraid that I have to be bold.
See you. Yeah.
I have to be bold, and unfortunately, the time is up. However, because I'm not sure if there were any questions in the Q&A. I actually have a question to Neven, maybe a last one, closing one, is what would be your recommendation to social enterprises that we have on the call? And there are many very experienced organizations also in the region that work with business, that are successful in engaging big companies, domestic or international ones. But do you have any one or two recommendations if smaller social enterprises want to start? What would be your advice? One or two last.
Yeah. I think definitely, to thank you, Eva. I think we didn't have any question because it's still too early for questions. But my tip would be basically, I think the preparation and the kind of do your homework type of work is the most important part, because what we see, we organize a lot of marketplaces where we try to match NGOs or social enterprises with the corporates, and what we see there is that you would have a social enterprise or NGO just pitching their own thing without relating to what is a corporate strategy, what are some of the corporate projects, what are some of their needs. And I think this is where you would not get much progress. So do your homework. Please understand, what these companies, what SDGs it wants to support. What is their corporate social responsibility strategy? What is the strategy of their headquarters? What are some of the challenges that they have and that you might support them with? What are your own resources that you can provide? You're working with youth. Everybody's interested in engaging youth in various ways, or you have a specific expertise when it comes to environment and you can help with that. So I think it's a two-way street. It's not only, getting something from the corporate. And I think,
last one.
If you do your homework well, then you will be able to pitch something which is tailored and meaningful, and engage them in a more meaningful way, and start small and then build from that. So
great. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I encourage all the participants also to visit SMART website, and definitely EBPA website. There is a lot of resources and a lot of good examples.